Alright, welcome everyone. My name is Prez, and in this installment of the DCS F-14B for Dummies, we'll be learning how to properly taxi, take off, and land both on shore and on the carrier as simply and effectively as possible. We'll even be going over the ACLS, or Automatic Carrier Landing System, in the TOMCAT, and if you're coming over from the F-18 Hornet, you'll really enjoy this system. Now, takeoff in the TOMCAT is admittedly very simple, but when it comes to landing, there are a lot of small details and setup to be aware of, and I want to make it as easy to follow as possible. Now, obviously, as the reputation of the TOMCAT stands, you'll most likely be doing carrier operations, but don't get discouraged by the difficulty of carrier landings. It's nothing a bit of practice and repetition can't fix. So without further ado, let's hop into a TOMCAT and get in the air. Alright, here we are in the TOMCAT, and you finished up your cold start procedure, or you've just hot started. So, we'll go ahead and start our taxiing procedure. So, one of the main controls you'll need to pay attention to is your nose wheel steering, which I'm not sure what it is by default. It might honestly be N, but my default control for it is N. Obviously, it's easy to remember because nose wheel, N for nose wheel. And it's also important to remember this key for later when we start talking about the ACLS, because you need to use this for the autopilot reference. But we'll worry about that later. So now, here we are in a parking lot, wings fully extended, and we'll go ahead and begin our taxi. Parking brake disengaged. We're here on at the Takeoff airfield just because the runway is a nice big runway. And make sure your nose wheel steering is engaged. It's important to note that there are two different procedures for taxiing with the TOMCAT. On land, you want to taxi with your wings fully extended, as such. And on the carrier, you want them folded all the way back, which I'll obviously remind you when we get to talking about carrier takeoff and landing. But, yeah, taxiing in the TOMCAT's not very hard. One thing you do have to recognize, though, is that unlike a lot of other aircraft, when you get behind the engines of other aircraft, even while taxiing, your airframe will start to shake a lot. Obviously, you don't have to worry about that when you're on the ground, but, you know, don't worry, don't freak out that your plane may or may not be, like, you know, falling apart or something's messing up. Nothing... There's no consequence for it. It's just a, you know, it's just a visual effect to indicate that you're in someone's jet wash. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and fix my altimeter. There we go. And we're gonna come out here. And just line her up. Brakes, which by default should be W. There we go. And now, as of note, we are currently flying with probably the most standard cap loadout that you'll see from the TOMCAT on most servers, unless you have rules for, you know, specific historical loadouts or whatnot, or there's limits on the kind of missiles you can take. So we got 4 Phoenixes, 2 Sparrows, 2 Sidewinders, and 2 external tanks, as well as full fuel, which comes out to about 71-ish thousand pounds of takeoff weight. So we're going to be going ahead and extending our flaps. As you can see, when I extended them, our spoilers went ahead, our spoiler brakes went ahead and, you know, it came out. Throttling up goes ahead and retracts them, and throttling to idle goes ahead and, you know, extends them. So we're a little bit heavy, so we're going to be extending our flaps out. It's good to always take off with flaps just because it gets you in the air quickly, but you don't really need to. Another thing to make sure to keep in mind is that afterburner takeoffs in the TOMCAT, specifically the B model. The A model is different because it has much weaker engines, but in the B model, you do not want to be afterburning on takeoff. Big no-no. I want you to understand that. Do not do that. In real life, the Tomcat was banned from afterburner takeoffs. Uh, and in DCS, Jester will actually like he'll make a comment if you afterburner takeoff, saying something about the ATC or the crew chief is going to be mad at you for that one, stuff like that. You really don't need to use afterburner in this aircraft to take off. Um, you know, even with heavy weight on board, you really don't need to. These engines are extremely, extremely powerful. So, you can even sometimes take off in as little as mil power. But we're going to go ahead and throttle up to mil power with the brakes on. Keep in mind, nose wheel steering is still on. And then we're going to throttle up to just before afterburner. Now, the airspeeds you want to keep in mind here is that at about 100 knots, you want to disengage your nose wheel steering. You can really just keep it on the entire time, but at about 100 knots, you're able to steer your aircraft with your rudder. So we'll disengage it now. At about 120, you can start gently pulling back on the stick. And then between 140 and 150, you'll start to take off. Boom, look at that. At about 140, we've taken off. So gear up. Gears coming up. Flaps up. And now that we're up, we can go ahead and afterburner, as we please. So, gonna go ahead and hit that afterburner. Alrighty, look at that. Again, you really don't want to afterburner on takeoff. It's not necessary at all, even with how heavy the Tomcat can be. The engines are more like they're so much more engine power than you'll ever need to take off. You really don't need the afterburner. So, yeah, you can just fly around and all that. And congratulations, you've taken off from an airport in the Tomcat. I'll be right back and we'll go over the landing procedure. Alright, so here we are on a landing approach to Makeup. And we're going to be going over the landing procedure for the Tomcat in a very simple way. So, first things first, before we do any of that, the one control that you're going to need to pay attention to for landing the Tomcat is called the DLC, or direct lift control. There's both a toggle for it to turn it on and off, and a switch to push aft and forward. The DLC toggle also doubles as your countermeasure dispense for something like your flares. And so quick explanation what the DLC is essentially two sections of your wing spoilers on the inside will extend on both wings, and it gives you a very easy and effective way to control your lift vector without having to induce any lateral stick movements or up and down stick movement. You won't have to pull back or push forward on the stick to adjust your lift vector. That's to make it so it's a lot easier to stay on speed AOA. Aft will retract your DLC, thus inducing lift, so it'll raise your lift vector. Forward will extend your DLC, which will go ahead and induce drag and decrease your lift, so it'll force your velocity vector down. So, real quick. So I'll go ahead and put up on the screen the steps for landing. So first off, what you're going to want to do is, number one, you're going to go to your displays, and the last button right here is your landing. That'll pull up all your landing symbology, and what that'll do is it'll display an E bracket, your velocity vector, and an altitude indicator right here on the right hand side, which will give you altitude from 1,000 feet to 0. Also, when it comes to on-speed AOA, the explanation for that in the Tomcat is if you're coming from the Hornet or any other aircraft that has an on-speed indicator or a special way of doing it, such as the Hornet, you'll know that the E bracket is supposed to line up with the velocity vector. But in the Tomcat, the E bracket actually lines up with your attitude indicator right here. And a good way to, one, you want to line it up there, but also right here on the left-hand side is your AOA lights. And if we zoom in here, you can clearly see, or I hope you can clearly see, that we have a green echelon going down, a yellow circle in the center, and a red echelon going up. Green means that you're going too slow, and your AOA is a bit too high. Yellow means you're on speed properly, and red means your AOA is too low and you're going too fast. So, if you drive a car, it's easy to remember. Green means go, yellow means caution, and red means slow down. So, you see the green light, you got to put your pedal to the metal, start giving her a little bit of gas, get up to speed, get the AOA sorted out. Yellow is you're going a good speed, you're cautious and all that, you're paying attention. And red, it means you really got to hit the brakes, slow her down a bit. So now that we get that out of the way, remember, number 1 is go to your displays, hit landing, pop up all that symbology. 2 is you want to deploy your speed brake, which by default it should be B. To both extend and retract it. Your speed brake, it's good to remember, your speed brake only extends below 450 knots. Currently we're at 300, so that won't be an issue. You want your wing sweep set to auto to get those wings out. So, number 1, landing symbology. Number 2 is extend your air brakes. Number 3, make sure your wings are set to auto. And now number 4 is once you drop down below 300, once you get to 280, between 280 and 250 knots is when you can deploy your gear, which by default is G. Once you get between 230, or once you get around 230, 220 knots is when you want to deploy full flaps, which by default will be F. And then once you've deployed your flaps, what you want to do is you want to hit your DLC toggle button, which will enable your DLC. And then all you got to do from there is line up your on-speed indicator, or line up your AOA with your on-speed indicator and all that, and just come in for a glide. On-speed AOA is about 15 degrees of AOA. And obviously, if you've flown any other aircraft and landed them, you'll know that you want your velocity vector at the beginning of the runway. When you land, it should feel like, quote, a controlled crash. So don't worry too much if you hit it a bit too hard. It's supposed to be like that. Obviously, don't slam yourself. Don't drop out of the sky like a brick and hit the asphalt. So we'll go ahead and start this off. We'll unpause. We'll go ahead and landing. Speed brake extended. I'll throttle back to get our speed down a little bit more. Wing sweep is set to auto. We're about 280 knots, so I'll go ahead and extend our gear, give us a little bit more drag. It's also good to note that when you extend your air brake, your gear and your flaps, and your DLC as well, it'll induce a little bit of downward stick, so you'll have to trim that out. And here we are, we're 230, so we'll go ahead and extend our flaps. And we'll go ahead and hit our DLC toggle. Boom, there you go. That's what that looks like. And you just want to come in for landing. 150 knots is about the sweet spot for where you want to be. Also, you can even engage auto throttle. Auto throttle will go ahead and, automatically adjust your throttles so that you can maintain on speed. So we'll go ahead and get on speed. We'll get our AOA going here. If we can, trim up for our AOA. There we go. And we'll go ahead and mess with our DLC here. So as you can see, boom, boom, forward, retract. And if you look on the HUD here, go ahead, forward decreases our lift vector, aft will increase it, so we gotta decrease our lift vector here just a bit. And we're on a bit of a long final, but I just wanted to make sure we had all our steps going. Coming in. Yeah, again, 150 knots is about the sweet spot in terms of airspeed. And boom, look at that. As you can see on the right-hand side, we have our altitude indicator pop up for us. That'll tell us our altitude. We did come in a bit high, but that's all right. And coming in.
1,000 feet.
We're definitely way too high for this, but that's all right. Just a demonstration. Also, you want to make sure
feet.
you do not want to
400
flare.
feet.
You do not.
300.
Thank you, Jester.
200 feet. 100. 50. 30.
And we're on the ground. There we go. Beautiful. Look at that. Smooth. Enable your nose wheel steering so you can, you know, steer your aircraft. Brakes, brakes, brakes. And we're done. So, yep, we came in a little bit high there. You want to be about 300 feet on your final if you're following proper landing procedure, but it's all right. It's just a demonstration. So, yeah, as you can see, spoiler brakes are up. And, yeah, retractor speed brake. You want to make sure not to flare on landing. With the Tomcat, it's not built. It's not the Tomcat isn't designed to flare on landing. So just maintain that on-speed AOA, put that velocity vector on the runway, and just let the cat hit the deck. You'll be fine. You won't explode. Your gear can very clearly take it. This thing was designed for carrier landings, so it's got to be able to take that rough crash onto the carrier and getting hooked. So yeah, there you go. That's the landing procedure for the Tomcat on the shore. I'll be back to you with the carrier, taxi, takeoff, and landing. So I'll see you then. Alright, here we are on the carrier. We're on the carrier deck, and as you can see, we're already all started up and everything. Just to let you see, wings are still folded, and that is because when you taxi on the carrier, as you can, obviously see, there's not a lot of room on a carrier. And the Tomcat is a really wide wingspan when the wings are swept out. So whenever you're taxiing on the plane, you just want to have those folded back all the way. And then what we're going to do now is simply taxi to the catapult. Just make sure your nose wheel steering is on. You avoid everything. And we're going to go ahead and line up on catapult 1, which is this front rightmost catapult. And lining up. Alrighty, we're just about lined up. Now, it's probably best to use external view to go ahead and see where your nose wheel is. Because you're obviously going to have to lower your Tomcat nose onto the catapult and hook it up. And if you're in a situation where you can't use the external view, the best way that I've found to know whenever your front wheel is lined up is if you look over on your left-hand shoulder, and this only really works if you're on catapult 1, but if you look over on your left-hand shoulder, this little shoulder bump that comes out from your wing being folded in should line up somewhere along the edge of this blast deflector right here. All right, and as you can see, our front tire is directly in front of the actual hookup. So what we're going to do now is that now we're in front of it. If you direct yourself to this front left panel where your parking brake is, directly to the right of your parking brake is your nose strut. This switch will raise and lower your front gear, and all you got to do is, well, that was extend. All you got to do is click it down, and it'll automatically go all the way down until you reach the bottom, and then boom, it's back up. Please be aware that when your nose wheel is all the way down, you cannot use nose wheel steering, so you're not able to do any of that. And once you're all the way down, you just hit U. As you can see, the steam comes up because this is a steam catapult. And we're nice and hooked up. As you can see, blast deflector is out. So now that we're hooked up, lined up, all you got to do is open up. If you haven't done this already, you open up your wing sweep lever, detent it, push it all the way forward, retent, close it, hit master reset, and make sure you're on auto. Boom, wings are swept forward, and then go ahead and fully extend your flaps. Also, make sure to have your anti-skid off. Don't want to have that on the carrier. Don't want to have any excess drag when you're taking off. And then, so again, like I stated earlier, when you're taking off from the airfield, you do not want to afterburner takeoff. The engines on this thing are extremely powerful, and it's even more dangerous on a carrier because based on the technology and the throttle. If you were to throttle full to afterburner, and they don't light at the exact same time, it can cause such an immense amount of yaw that it could actually throw you off the carrier during the catapult launch. So you want to wait until you're off of the carrier and in the air to engage that afterburner. So all you got to do, throttle up to mil power. Once you're up to mil power and everyone's set, everyone's ready, you just hit Shift U, and you're off. It'll throw you off the carrier deck. You just want to throttle up a little bit. Even engage afterburner if you want. Gear up, flaps up, and just start your climb. It's as simple as that. Not very hard. Just remember, press the U key to go ahead and hook up to the catapult once your nose wheel is completely lowered onto the catapult, and then Shift U is what lets you catapult out. So I'll be right back for an actual landing. As you can see, taking off on a carrier is really simple, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, I'll be back for a carrier landing. Alrighty, here we are, getting ready for a landing on the Stennis. If you want to get to this practice, all you got to do is go to the instant action on the menu, go to your F-14, and then select Case 1 Carrier Recovery, and that'll set you up with the most basic and simple carrier recovery there is, which is, a clear sky, perfect weather, everything's nice. It'll go ahead and give you very helpful It'll go ahead and give you very helpful information such as your BRC or your basic recovery course, which is the heading at which the landing strip is on the carrier. So when you're landing, you want to be parallel with that. And yeah. So while we're here and while we're paused, I can go ahead and explain a couple of concepts to you. So as you saw in the landing on shore, it's very simple. The aircraft, while it may, it really depends on your opinion. It may be harder to land than some aircraft, and that's just because, you don't have that fly-by-wire and stuff like that. But the fact that this doesn't have a flight computer in it, there are a lot of, nice, modes and little toys in it that really make landing on a carrier and even on land a lot simpler. And landing on a carrier is exactly the same as landing on shore, except obviously you got to keep in mind with that basic recovery course, and you have to have your hook down, and that's just about it. One nice thing though, that the TOMCAT has that I did not talk about in the or use in the land-based recovery is the auto throttle. So if you look at your, if you know where your engine crank knob is that we talked about in the previous chapter, just behind that is a bunch of throttle controls, and specifically this mode switch right here. Flipping it backwards or aft will switch it to manual mode, and that essentially gets rid of the hydraulics in the engine and switches it to a more traditional mechanical function. It's not recommended to do this like at any point because it can, cause certain mechanical failures, like not failures really, but just the mechanical nature of it makes it so that your engines will lag and you'll have asymmetrical thrust at certain moments. Very dangerous when you're switching it into afterburner. You have boost, which is your default. That's obviously your hydraulic boosting, and auto, which is an amazing feature on the Tomcat for landing. It will basically just, maintain the throttle, the correct throttle, to help you maintain your on-speed AOA. It's very, very nice, and it's extremely helpful, especially for people like me who I don't have a separate throttle. My throttle is still connected to my stick. So, and I cannot both adjust my throttle and manipulate my DLC at the exact same time. It's a bit finicky, or it's just a little bit more difficult. So auto throttle really, really helps. It really helps immensely. Other than that, when you're doing a carrier landing, one thing that can help you is when you're in your landing mode and you go down to the steer command panel right here with all these buttons, a nice one to push is the very middle one, which is AWL/PCD. That will display a cross on your HUD, which I'll go ahead and show here. I'll go ahead and unpause, and boom, there we go. As you can see, the AWL switch is pressed, our hook is down, and as you can see, you've got this horizontal line and this vertical line. The horizontal line will tell you where you are on the in terms of like the recovery course, right? So this will tell you if you're at the correct altitude for where you're at in the landing sequence. The vertical line will tell you if you're actually lined up with your BRC. And so when you form a perfect cross in the center with this horizontal line going directly over the attitude dot in the center and the vertical line going vertically across it, that means you're all perfectly lined up. You're sitting nice and peachy. So our basic recovery course is 40 degrees. So we'll go ahead and set our course knob to 040 for that 40 degree course knob. We're gonna come in. I'm gonna throttle all the way back right now, or at least a little bit back.
Friendlies, E2, 11 o'clock,
and now
9 miles.
And now, thank you, Jester. And now a proper procedure for this is to have your wings swept all the way back. So I'm gonna go ahead and sweep my wings all the way back here, and we're gonna throttle. We're gonna keep our throttle up like that. And you want to come in at about 900 feet, but it's all right if you're high. You definitely don't want to be lower than that. 900 feet is basically going to be your deck when you're coming in initially for this landing. As you can see, the BRC is lining up for that. And we're going to go ahead and pass up the carrier here. There she is. And now that we've passed it, you want to get, about a nautical mile out in front of it. So we're here. And we're going to just throttle back, extend our air brake, and then start a nice bank at about 45 degrees. Until we get out in front of the ship, at which point we're going to go ahead and switch back to auto wing sweep. Give her a little gas here. We're below 300 at about 250, 280 to 250. You want to extend your gear. At about 220, 230, you want to go ahead and fully extend your flaps as such. And once your flaps are fully extended, you want to go ahead and engage your DLC. And if you're like me and you want to use the auto throttle, one thing to keep in mind when you're trying to engage the auto throttle is, if I didn't mention it before, the auto throttle will only engage if your RPM is between 70 and 90%. So if you're above 90%, it will not engage, and if you're at idle, it will not engage. So we're about here, and boom, set to auto. And now you don't have to mess with the throttle at all. All you got to do is adjust your trim to get your AOA going. And we're going to get a little out here, about a nautical mile and a half away from the ship. Don't worry about getting too slow. The auto throttle will adjust that. And we're good. So now we're going to come in, make a bank. If you're not doing this with the auto throttle, you want to give yourself a bit of juice when doing this, because you can get really slow making this turn. But 150 knots is, you know, your sweet spot, so don't worry about it. And you should be coming in at about 300 feet for this landing. And I'm gonna have to level out here a little bit more so I can get more to the right to get on the BRC. And here we are coming in. And when you're on final, you do not want to be putting any roll adjustments into it. If you want to move left and right, then you got to use your rudder. But in this case, we're all lined up nicely. You want to get that DLC to put it just above the carrier deck so you don't slam into the side of it. And just come in nice and easy. And boom. There you go.
012. Taxi to parking area.
There you go. We're landed.
Bolter, bolter, bolter.
Jess was gonna say we boltered, but apparently we did. But yeah, if you open up your knee board by pressing K and you cycle through, you can even look at your recovery. It'll actually give you a grade and all that stuff. But yeah, it's as simple as that. Don't be too discouraged. Just go ahead and practice it. You are a TOMCAT after all, so you're probably going to be doing a lot of carrier-based operations, you know, and these manual carrier landings are, you know, obviously something you're going to have to do in the TOMCAT. But it's really not that hard. Like I said, I mean, especially you use all the nice little tricks in this aircraft, like with the auto throttle, the DLC especially. All you got to do is line yourself up to the carrier, keep yourself straight ahead, and just, you know, use the DLC to move up and down. You know, so don't be too discouraged. Again, just practice it. Now, what we're going to do next is in the next segment, we're going to be talking about the automatic carrier landing system. So I'm going to go ahead and set up for that, and I'll be right back. All right, so here we are, going to be doing an automatic carrier landing. And this is one of the super nice things about the TOMCAT, is that you get an automatic carrier landing system. It's literally just autopilot for landing on a carrier, which is amazing. And now the automatic carrier landing system is really relegated mostly for case 3 landings, i.e., you know, flying blind and landing on a carrier you can't see. But you can use it obviously whenever you want. If you don't feel too confident in landing, you can obviously try and set this up, although it can be really finicky at times. Yeah, all you got to do for it is, if I direct you to the left over here, as you can see, you got your autopilot panel right here directly underneath your augmented flight control systems. And all you got to worry about right now is the first switch, which is the on-off switch, or the off engage. And then the one on the very left is your ACL and vector switch. So all you got to do is flip that back to ACL. And now that doesn't automatically just engage autopilot and it starts piloting itself. You have to do a lot of other things beforehand to get it going. That just makes it so that it preps your aircraft for the autopilot landing sequence. Now, when you look over here to the right, you'll see on the HUD and VDI switches, there is an ILS and ACL mode. You want to flip those to ACL to get your HUD symbology going. And other than that, everything is exactly like landing on a carrier manually. You just have your autopilot here ready and prepped, and then you have the other HUD symbology. And then all you got to do is hit your autopilot reference key at the proper time, which I'll show you. And if you don't remember what key that is, it is your nose wheel steering button. They're the same exact key, and you just got to press that, and it'll engage it. So we're going to go ahead and set up for a carrier landing here. If I go ahead and just unpause. Actually, before I unpause, 2 more things is that in order to do the carrier landing, 1, you need to connect your aircraft's data link to the data link of the carrier, because the autopilot system essentially just turns your aircraft into a drone, which the carrier lands onto itself. And then you need to also radio the carrier to tell them that you're coming in for a landing. So we're going to go ahead and unpause here. Set up for the landing. Going to go ahead and get our BRC set up, which in this case is 040 ACL. There we go. Engage the autopilot and flip it to the ACL mode.
Friendlies, Hawkeye, 11 o'clock.
And then we're going to go
9
ahead
miles.
and data link set host
Roger.
for the Stennis. And then we're going to radio the Stennis. ATC, Stennis, inbound.
012, inbound.
I'm going to throttle back here. Hook is already out. As you can see, the plane is shaking a little bit. That's because the autopilot system is engaged, and so it's going to essentially hold whatever your attitude is at. Makes it a little bit more stable for these landings. So now we're going to request landing.
Request landing.
And we're just going to do our standard brake pattern. So air brake. Gonna go ahead and pull around here. Get those wings extended. Get ourselves turned around. We're slow, so we can get our gear out. Extend our flaps. Toggle our DLC. And now for autopilot carrier landing to work, you do need to have auto throttle on, so we'll get that engaged. And remember, that only turns on between 70 and 90% throttle. And yeah, we're here. Everything is turned on. Everything is good. And we're just going to swing in, and we're going to try and line up the cross that I discussed earlier on the HUD. And once that is lined up, it will give us all of our... it will tell us that we're able to go ahead and enable the autopilot. So we'll go ahead and get around here. We're a little off to the left, to the right here, so we got to get over to the left. And turn in on the course. And pause here. And right here, see how the cross is lined up? It's not perfect, obviously, but if we look down here to the left of the VDI, you will see where it says landing check. You see this, ACL ready, A/P CPLR, and then the A/P reference. This obviously means that your autopilot reference is on, but these two mean that you can engage your autopilot. So we're going to go ahead and unpause here and quickly engage it by pressing N. And we've pressed N. And it should be going, and let's pause it real quick. If we zoom in here, you can see that the CMD control has been lit up. That means the aircraft is currently under control by the aircraft carrier. And then directly underneath it, if you can see that, if you can just make it out, there's something that says 10 seconds. That will light up when you are 10 seconds from landing. So we're going to go ahead and unpause here. Hand completely free of the joystick. I'm not controlling the aircraft whatsoever right now. It is completely being controlled by the aircraft carrier. And hopefully it gives us a good landing. And pause it again. As you can see, the 10 seconds light has lit up right there. And so the aircraft is 10 seconds from landing, or, you know, within 10 seconds. So unpause. And we are landed. Oh, dear God. Alrighty. That was the taxi, takeoff, and landing procedures for both onshore and carrier-based operations. And obviously, I would recommend practicing the carrier-based landings as much as you possibly can, because this is the Tomcat. It is the Fleet Defender. So you'll most likely be, you know, taking off from a carrier in a lot of operations. And yeah, it can honestly just be a lot of fun. It's a nice challenge. It's good fun to have. And again, I apologize if the ACLS portion of this video is a bit all over the place. It is a lot of information, and I tried to explain it very simply and easily, and it can simply just be a very finicky system. You know, it's not straightforward, just flip one button and then hit one to autopilot reference. You really got to do a lot of stuff for it to work, but when it works, I mean, it really works, you know? So yeah, just go over these steps, practice it as much as you can. It's very, very easy, very simple, and very nice. It only gets easier the more you do it. So that's about it. If you liked the video, if you found it helpful, go ahead and leave a like, comment, any, criticisms, or if you found the video extremely helpful, go ahead and leave that in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you can go ahead and stay up to date when I'm uploading more of these tutorial videos. And yeah, if you have a buddy who wants to fly the Tomcat as well, go ahead and share this video with them, and hopefully they can learn as easily as possible. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching, and have a nice day.